Here we go. I wonder whether... Hang on, let me know. Okay. Hang on. I have a brilliant idea, so I can find out whether, like, I sound decent on this or not. No, these aren't reading glasses. They're actually headphones. And if I turn them on... Yep, there we go. Okay, now I should be able to load this stream up on my phone now, so I can at least see whether it sounds all right or not. Okay. Oh, Lord. Yep, there's the live stream, and let's see. Oh, Lord. Yep, there's the live stream, and let's see. Okay. Well, it didn't go through. That connected. It should have gone through the earphones anyway. I know that, like, well, I sound like crap, but I can be heard. All right, so Centaurs. I promised this last live stream, and then, well, honestly, it looked like everyone had figured it out, or at least the fundamentals. But while I'm working on a presentation, I found a Bloomberg article that I think clarifies the issue. So, Centaurs, cyborgs, Centaur chess or advanced chess or cyborg chess. There's also a similar thing in Go, but the point is that you have a chess engine or a Go engine. If you're not familiar with Go, it's known as Wei Qi in Chinese and Puduk in Korean. It's what's known as the surrounding game. You know that game with... Hang on. Oh, no. I've still got the board and the pieces in my luggage from travel, so I can't show you, but... Sorry, I like Go, so I tend to get enthusiastic about it. There's a point here, Centaurs. Okay. So, probably maybe 15, 20 years ago to begin with, but I don't know whether there's been much formal research on it, but it's something that's was well known in like chess and the Go community before the engines got so powerful that they're honestly superhuman. So the concept of Centaur, and this is something that's been noticed in like the chess and Go world, is that a decent player and a good AI bot for the game, where the person is using information from the AI about like what lines to pursue in the game, so on and so forth, plays better than the engine alone, which may not be the case now. Like, but the difference between, say, Go or chess and the kind of things that LLMs do now is that there is a very definitive win state and lose state in those games. So with enough training, enough compute power, and the smarts, I mean, you can't just randomly throw like random instructions at a computer and expect it to do anything. But like, if a person's made the engine properly, like, there's a way of evaluating it that makes sure that it can be superhuman. There's nothing like that with language. Like, language isn't a game where you win, you lose, and you can track back from that position. And I just use reinforcement learning from there. So, okay. The point is, and I'm going to refer to a Bloomberg article here, and I'll link this Bloomberg article in a comment once I've done the stream. I'll just quote a small section from it. Okay, so it's basically a discussion of people talking about how AI has affected them on the job. This paragraph that I'm going to read out is from a teacher. With AI, I can do text leveling, a process that adapts written material to meet a student's reading level, which is one of my favorite things to do. If we're talking about the achievements of the Mesopotamians and Harumbai's code, I can have everybody understand what the code was, whether they're reading at a first grade level or an 8th grade level. So, yeah, translation between different styles of writing, different languages. That's something AIs are really strong on, like what we call modern AI, like or large language models specifically. There are other AIs. This is a massive oversimplification, but even before the reasoning models, they were strong at this because essentially, and like I said, this is a massive oversimplification, but what's happening when like it's going down, you've got the previous text in the context, so you've got a stream of text, and you've got how do I explain this? Okay. So what each of those additions, and this is a mechanism with feedback. So when the large language model produces the next token, that's again fed back into the system. So what you've got is something where small variations will go in very different directions. And so, like I said, this is an oversimplification, but what's essentially happening when there's a translation or a rewrite into a different style, like before the reasoning models, people were playing around with AIs, and a very common one was people getting it to rewrite essays in the style of, yeah, I talk like a pirate, matey, yeah, or something like that, yeah. So what's going on when is that, okay, so imagine a space, like just a space in an area. So when you've got the AI going like that, the large language model, I should specify large language models because I think other kinds of AIs are going to make a comeback soon. So each edition deflects in a different direction. So it's I know how to explain it. So, like I said, this is an oversimplification, but each of, like, say you've got a text and you want to turn it into speak like a pirate, the text itself, like as an abstraction, you can place it in a multi-dimensional space. Like you have like, that's 3D, that's 2D space, and then you add another thing like there, it's 3D space, and then it gets very hard to imagine. But to some extent, what's going on with the maths is that it's encoded as numbers, right? So in the style of this, in the style of that, while keeping the semantic content, I think that's the right term, or maybe no, it's not the semiotic content. The semiotic content changes entirely, but the meaning, keeping the meaning while changing the style, that's just a matter of translation. Like it's a shift in space. So you have normal text over here, and you have text written in the style of a pirate over here, and like, and what you're doing is you're essentially just taking that essay and you're shifting it to there. Like, so that leveling process that this teacher's talking about, like, it's something that's, it's grunt work. Like, there's knowledge of what vocabulary is expected of like a first grader. There's an understanding of what's required for an 8th grader. There's an understanding of, it's, so all it's doing is simplifying the language while trying to retain that meaning in dimensional space. So it's just talk like a pirate, essay, shift it to there. And talk like a pirate space. And so shift it to there, 12th grader space, 8th grader space, first grader space. Yeah. Like, that's the sort of thing AI is great at. And the point is that this teacher is utterly in charge of it, obviously. Like, when he takes a text and levels it to different areas, different reading levels, he'll of course like look at it, and edit it. Like, that's essentially the same as being a centaur. Well, it is being a centaur. You're doing better than the large language model could have done on its own, obviously. Like, the large language model has no context of the outside world other than what it's told and what it can infer from its training data. So, yeah, that was actually the point I was getting to. That with a human in control, like in this case, it's great. It takes away a lot of the drudge work. Like, to a large extent, like leveling a text is a very mechanical process. I mean, there's skill involved, of course, but the same teacher reports that without this aid, they don't think they'd have the energy to continue teaching, like, at their age. Like, there we go. A great case for AI, removing the drudge work for a teacher and keeping a experienced and skilled teacher teaching for a bit longer. That's great. Okay. Now I'm going to quote a bit from the Bloomberg article again. This time it's a hospital. I'll quote the whole thing. Our hospital uses a healthcare design program for a lot of different things, including discharge planning. You plug in the length of stay or the person's diagnoses, and the algorithm basically says, okay, this is what we've got to do to get them out of here by this day. This doesn't seem very patient-centered. It's very much efficiency and productivity-centered. it's alarming from a nurse's standpoint because we don't want to look at our patients as numbers and bodies in a bed. We want to make sure that we're actually doing things that are going to improve their health and get them better, not just get them out of the hospital. Recently, we had an assistant chief nursing officer who was visiting during our rounds. There was a patient who'd gone over the length of stay and who had a very complicated situation. The medical team was trying to determine if this patient was going to need dialysis treatment for the kidneys. When the nursing officer read the algorithmic report, all they saw was, oh, dialysis is a barrier to getting this person out of the hospital. They said, we can just set that up outpatient. The nurses, we all said, no, you can't just do that. And she continued the push. The kidney doctor eventually told her no. It's not that we don't appreciate the technological advances. We want to be able to utilize these programs to help our patients and to enhance the care that we're giving. We don't want it to be yet another barrier to us giving good healthcare. So in this case, again, like there's a centaur situation in the sense that like a centaur, it's just a metaphor, an analogy. Like the human is in control. They're the one choosing where to go, whatever. And the horsey bit just rides along with them. And like, so eventually, yes, humans ultimately made the decision. But if, and here's where it gets dicey, like, what if they hadn't? Like, it's, I mean, a person needing dialysis, that's a very obvious condition. Like, I'm a little bit concerned that the assistant chief nursing officer just looked at the AI thing and followed the AI's recommendation. That's where things get scary. Ultimately, AI has a lot of potential to remove a lot of drudge work. Which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, except maybe there are better ways of teaching things, but at the moment, a large part of how people gain experience in the field is by doing the drudge work. And well, there's a question of transfer of skills, isn't there? All right. Anyway, I'd better get back to this presentation. I figured I'd better dump that Bloomberg article since I don't know whether it's going to make the final cut, but it seems important in the moment right now. Just to heavily emphasize that, well, you can call it a centaur, but just think of it like if it's a person riding a horse. The AI is your horse, you're the rider. You can kind of let a horse like make some decisions by itself, but ultimately you're in charge of the direction you're heading with all this. All right, signing off.